If you're looking for a behind-the-scenes insight into music, you've come to the right place. Remember to subscribe to be notified of new content.
Hey, I'm Ellie D, and this all started back in 2016 when I was hosting Breakfast Community Radio. It was then that I realised my passion for Australian music, or rather supporting the Australian music community. I didn't know then that we were going to be hit with a pandemic, but look where we are now. It's 2022. I've got 5 amazingly talented Australian singer-songwriters that are going to be sharing with you over the next 5 episodes what their experience has been like as an Australian muso.
This is Behind the Music with Ellie D.
My first memory of music could actually be my mum singing to me as a small child. I couldn't go to sleep, so mum would come in and sing lullabies, but rather than just typical children's lullabies, she'd often sing melancholy type songs like Scarborough Fair and Molly Malone. So I think I developed a love for music and singing at a very early age. My father also introduced me to the Beach Boys during my teens, so I was listening to a lot of great harmonies and melodies and things growing up as well. Didn't start writing songs until my very late teens, early 20s, and really didn't start pursuing music as a career until only within the last few years. I get my inspiration everywhere. I find for myself I have what feels like a giant ball of energy buried within my chest, and I need to find ways to release that energy. So creativity, writing music, that is how I release that energy, because I feel like I'd explode if I didn't let it out. So getting inspiration's never been difficult. All around me there's just so much, and I've constantly got thoughts going through my head, and everything somehow finds its way into becoming stimulus for a song. The artists I identify with are usually those that have put a lot of thought into their songwriting, or are trying to convey something that seems quite deep and profound. I really enjoy a lot of Kurt Cobain's writings. I like his vocal delivery. I like the melodies that he uses. So Nirvana was a band that I really have gotten into and has just stuck with me. More recently, there's an artist called Sick Brain, whose musical style I really connect with, and again just has some really provoking lyrics, and it's the sort of thing that I try to emulate and put into my own songwriting. When it comes to social media, I try not to get too caught up in it. I like to just focus on having just one account that I can put energy into, and people can find me there. So I know there's always the lure to be on everything. For me, I have quite a decent Facebook following, and that's where people tend to connect with me most. So I put out a lot of content on Facebook. I interact with people mostly on Facebook. I tend to comment and reply on everything that people share with me as well on Facebook. So that's the best place to get in touch with me on social media. I do have Instagram as well and other accounts, but I rarely use them, and just find that Facebook's the one that helps me to connect most with people, and that's where I can be found. I'm really encouraged by the prospect of OzNow Radio. I think internet radio is growing in its popularity. I know in other places, across Europe, in America, internet radio has quite a large following, and I think it's slowly growing here in Australia as well. As an artist, I think it's really encouraging to know that there are people out there that want to support your music and want to get it into people's ears. And it can be very stifling in Australia when you just look at the FM radio options that we have, the commercial radio. There's just not a lot of opportunity to get your music heard. So having internet radio like OzNow put their hand up and say, hey, we want to back you, we want to get behind you, really boosts your confidence as an artist. And then it becomes a community of like-minded people that are fueling something that hopefully becomes bigger than any one of us. Interestingly, the best piece of advice that someone has given me in the music industry was, and it wasn't really advice but more so just a statement, and they said, nobody cares about your music as much as you do. And it helped me to realize that as far as developing myself and pushing myself and promoting myself, it needed to come from me. I couldn't sit around waiting for a manager to come and get me, or for a booking agent to suddenly want to book me everywhere. or for radio stations just to discover me and want to play me. As much as those industries are out there looking and helping to develop artists, they won't care about your music as much as what you do. So you need to be out there just pushing yourself, and maybe in doing that you'll get some of their attention and at least build some relationships with people in those industries that you can learn from. But no one's going to drive you as much as you do. At least that's what I've found for myself, and that's been really helpful information. It's hard to say what the worst advice would be. One of the things that I have found least beneficial is probably PR. There's a lot of PR agencies out there and it's quite expensive. And I have found that what you get in return for the money that you spend on PR has rarely been worth it, and that a lot of the stuff that you can do in PR, you can do for yourself. So I would recommend not getting a PR agent, particularly if you're just starting out as a musician and looking for ways to promote yourself, and still be willing to spend some money on that. So whether or not you're paying for a music blog to write a great review for something that you've put out, or you're paying for Facebook advertising, you may still need to spend, but rather than spending say $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 plus on a campaign to get your music out there, only to discover that it just gets to the same music blogs you could have contacted yourself, it's definitely not worth it. To be honest, COVID hasn't really impacted me as much as what it may have impacted others. If anything, it's just given me more time to be writing music and producing music. So I've actually really enjoyed having the world slow down a little bit, which has been great. I mean, for myself, I'm not earning a full-time income out of music, so I was already working a job and then doing music on the side. So basically my day job was there to give me the resources to produce and release music, and that hasn't changed. And I guess there's probably some artists that have had to step back into that dynamic, which are finding it difficult, but generally speaking for me, COVID has just created more opportunity for me to write music. And while there's been less opportunities to perform, it certainly hasn't dampened my drive and passion to get music out there. In 3 years' time, I see myself producing more music. Hopefully it'll be better. I mean, as my belief is that as you continue to do something and you do more of it, you naturally get better at it. So I expect the music that I'm creating in 3 years' time to be far more groundbreaking than the music that I'm creating now. I'd like to be seeing myself gigging a lot more as things open up and more opportunities arise, and as reputation gets out there more. I'd like to see myself performing at more festivals and things, but ideally I just want to be still living with the same passion and drive to create music as I have now. My greatest advice for aspiring young musicians is just enjoy doing it. Enjoy writing, enjoy the freedom that comes from being able to express yourself in a creative way, and don't get too caught up in the what ifs, the what if I get discovered, the what if I suddenly blow up on social media, the what if I become the next big thing, because that may not ever happen. And if you're hanging your hopes on that, you may find yourself getting really disappointed and jaded. And I think the best thing you can do is just continue to love making music for the sake of making music.
Want more? Check out the Behind the Music with LED podcast, available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.